Hello guys, welcome back to ESENtaxa. Andrea Vito here, and in this video we are going to talk about the Impatriate regime 2026 and the new Italian tax agency clarification that opens the border, I would say, to a lot of people, so that now the Impatriate regime is not more restricted as before. And if you stay up to the end of this video, I'm going to explain exactly how you can qualify from 2026 more easily for the tax benefit Impatriate regime in Italy. If you're new in this channel, ESENtaxa talks about how to optimize your taxation if you want to relocate to a specific country in Europe, and we are the #1 channel in English language explain the Italian taxation, all the tax optimization, and we are expert on help people to make a tax planning in long term in this country, but we also cover jurisdictions such as Belgium, Portugal, Albania, Republic of San Marino. And here we would like to focus on the Impatriate regime, which is for Italy, it's a tax benefit for Italy. And we have extensively talked about this tax regime, but of course, since we are approaching the end of the year, the Italian government is refining the Italian budget law, but at the same time we are receiving the tax agency clarifications that are basically are covering the blurry point of the laws in which there are certain doubts. Okay, they interpreted more strictly or less strictly certain kind of law, such as the one for the Impatriate regime. Before I move forward, I just want to remind you that in the description below the video you have our calendar link in which you can book with us a consultation, because before taking any client as a accounting firm, we need to have a consultation, we need to have a tax planning, because thanks to the tax planning you can spare a lot of taxes in long term, because we understand your personal situation, your worldwide income, because this is what we're talking about. It's not just the Impatriate regime stream of income, but we have to also take into account your global situation, business structure, family structure, individual structure situation from the income point of view, and then we can make a tax planning optimizing your status, making tax simulations. And in the description of the video, the calendar link brings you to our kind of services, which are very quick one for very few specific questions of only 20 minutes. We have 1 hour call. We have also a follow-up number of calls to implement a certain kind of tax planning, tax structure, business structure that we have discussed in the first place. So more information. Also, if you want to write us, you will receive more information if you will write us at info@esentaxa.com as well. But please look at the description below the video in which you will find these links. Now, going back to the topic of this video, it's a very, very important news, because now the Impatriate regime will be not only for professionals who had a degree, which was the mandatory requirement to prove high qualified skills, because that's the reason why the Impatriate regime exists, bring to into the Italian territory people, high qualified people, in order to have some economic benefits. The society itself will benefit from high qualified person who will spend the money and will also help to grow the society. Now, the Impatriate regime works in this way. I will repeat quickly how it works. 50% deduction, 50% exemption actually on your profit, because if you're an employee, we are talking about 50% tax-free on your salary, which goes straight in your pocket. The rest will be taxed at the ordinary rates, Italian tax bracket rates. While if you're a freelancer or a sole proprietor, basically 50% of your profit, so the difference between cost and expenses is a profit, so 50% of the profit is tax-free, goes straight to your pocket, and only the rest will be subject to Social Security and taxes, tax bracket rates taxes, okay? Only this type of income, these two types of incomes are subject to the Impatriate regime. The rest of the type of incomes coming from abroad or other typologies are subject to ordinary Italian taxation, tax bracket rates, okay? Now, to access to this regime, actually what you need to do, first we need to stay in Italy at least for 4 years, and the regime lasts for 5 years, okay? And then you should have been not Italian tax resident for the previous 3 tax years, and then also 7 years or previous 7 years or 6 years if you were working for the same company, also in Italy and then abroad. But the big constraint of this regime has been always the problem of being graduated. because the Italian tax agency, actually the law were looking for people graduated, and the Italian tax agency at the beginning confirmed this point. So only if you're graduated you can apply for the Impatriate regime. But now the high qualification, your skills can be proven also through your experience, your working experience, and not anymore just with the degree. So that's the big difference, and that's the new tax clarification describe precisely which are the alternative cases to prove your high qualified skills. Okay, indeed, you can either be now somebody that has a degree, qualification, at least 3 years of diploma or equivalent 3 years of university degree in a country that Italy recognized, of course, where diplomas are recognized from the Italian government, which basically almost all countries in the world. So this is one of the case. The other possibility to prove that you are a high qualified worker, which can be considered eligible for the Impatriate regime, is when you are subscribed or you pass the license exams for certain kind of Italian licensed professions, such as lawyers, accountants, doctors, etc., etc. So all those professions in which Italy requires you to have a license or pass a public exam or exam for the state. Okay. Now, this is a classical example for Italians already got this license and then went abroad. And then, thanks to this regime, they want to come back. So they have already the license, and the license already prove that you are high qualified. And so you can apply for the Impatriate regime. So this point is not for you that you have never been in Italy, you don't speak Italian, so most likely you don't have an Italian license for this kind of jobs, but for sure for Italians who went abroad for seeking new opportunity, job opportunity, then they want to come back. There is a third option, which is the one that probably is for you that you're watching this video. You have to just prove 5 years of experience on that specific profession, high qualified profession, that you're going to perform also in Italy, or somehow, and this is very important here, somehow related with the previous professions. Let me explain it better this point. So imagine you are a consultant, a high qualified technical consultant in the electronic engineers fields, okay? You can prove to the Italian state, in case of tax audit, that you were for 5 years previous to the relocation to Italy, a high qualified electronic engineer, either as an individual, as an employee, or as a self-employed or sole proprietor, okay? Then you move to Italy and you're doing a very similar job, still high qualified job, which can be, we can take the reference as the famous ISTAT public website, in which we have the list of high qualified profession. So if you belong on one of those high qualified profession and you can prove that 5 years ago, for 5 years, prior to the relocation to Italy, you were able to prove you work in that field, work as that person, then you can apply the Impatriate regime in Italy, and then you can also make a similar job related to it, so in the same category, but it doesn't need to be exactly the same role, exactly the same job, but somehow related, okay? Now, in the consultancy, we can discuss about this somehow related, because I know words, the devil is in the details. So we have to be very careful when we prove certain kind of, when we respect certain kind of tax agency clarifications, and we have to explain exactly in a consultancy in a separate moment, and not in this video, because otherwise it's going to be too long, what does it mean somehow related. Of course, if you're going to perform the exact same job, the exact same role, the problem don't arise, okay? But keep in mind here that thanks to this third point, it opens basically the open regime to almost everyone, okay? Unless you're doing a basic job like a trainee or cleaner, of course those are not jobs for an Impatriate regime because you're not high qualified. But if you are, and you can prove it even without a degree now, from 2026 in Italy, it's possible, okay? And there is also a shortcut, a fast track, let's say, for a manager, high qualified manager of companies, so they don't have to prove for the latest 5 years before the relocation to Italy, but they only have to prove for the latest 3 years before the relocation to Italy. There is just this fast track for specialists. And the law says, well, rather than the law, I would say the tax clarification says you can prove this in a span of the last 7 years, 3 years, not even consecutive, you should have a manager of a company, okay? So this was basically, if we want to really go precise, but this is something, again, it's a personal situation, case-by-case analysis that we can check together in a consultancy. I will recap quickly. So now the Impatriate regime from 2026 will be open to people with a degree, of course, which belongs to a high qualified profession, connected to a high qualified profession. If you got a license for high qualified professions in Italy, licensed by the state, if you have a proven professional experience as high qualified worker related to the type of job published from the Italian public istat.it, and you can prove it in the last 5 years with document, with contract, with payrolls, whatever, and you can keep doing the same job or somehow related job. And lastly, if you are a manager of a company, you can just prove the last 3 years in a span of 7. Okay? So this is the recap. Actually, this opened the borders to almost everyone. So you can basically move to Italy with the Impatriate regime. Of course, if it's just a matter of visa, but we can also help you now with the visa because ESENtaxa offers a service called Relocation plan. So we can also help high qualified individuals, skills professionals to apply for the visa through our lawyer partner. So basically with ESENtaxa you're going to have a full service. Of course, full relocation plan service. Of course, if you are a European Union citizen, definitely it's easier. You can simply go in Italy, open a VAT number and apply for the Impatriate regime through our accounting service. And that's it for today's video. Of course, when it comes to the end of the year, more and more news, pop-ups here and there, and we are here in ESENtaxa to immediately update you whenever there is something that it's quite hot potato that is going to be extremely good news for you for 2026. So if you want to be updated whenever we release this kind of content, you have to just subscribe to the channel, notification bell and like button to be always notified whenever we release this kind of video. See you to the next content. Bye.